Star Wars Outlaws is only just over a week away now, and in my opinion, this game has a whole lot of pressure on it for various different reasons. There's the pressure of just any Ubisoft game where people are definitely ready to scrutinize them as soon as they slip up with any game. There's the pressure of having huge shoes to fill in the fact that the last single-player Star Wars game, Jedi Survivor, was overall received very well and is actually launching on previous gen consoles in the near future, meaning there's some level of competition there. And to be honest, just the fact that it is a Star Wars game in general means there's a hell of a lot of pressure to perform, as Star Wars is probably one of, if not the single most scrutinized IP in the world, where people are pretty much just ready to jump on any project that isn't a straight up 10 out of 10. Today I wanted to run through a few simple areas in which Star Wars Outlaws absolutely must succeed in my opinion if it wants to live up to the expectation and the hype of being the first truly open world Star Wars game. Now the first thing that comes to mind for me when I just mentioned the first truly open world Star Wars game is to do with the immersion. I think that is going to be the key factor for this game that is pretty much going to determine whether or not this game is successful or not, because whether it's a good game or not, if it's not immersive, if it doesn't feel like it's Star Wars, I think a lot of people are going to be very, very let down by that, and that could essentially tank a lot of people's thoughts on the game overall. Now, I mentioned this in a previous video, but a comparison to this that I've sort of talked about is Hogwarts Legacy, where that game, at least for me, is one of the most immersive experiences that I've ever played in my life. It felt like you genuinely were enrolled at Hogwarts when you were playing that game. I would often just spend genuine hours wandering around Hogwarts, looking at all the different little Easter eggs and going to different wings and different classrooms that we'd seen in the movies. And for me, that was essentially what carried that game and made it feel like one of the best 10 out of 10s when it comes to a game based on an existing IP, which is very, very hard to do. Now, what I've also said though is that that game on its own, if you remove the actual Harry Potter elements of it, I genuinely think that game was only about an 8 out of 10 from the perspective of just the game itself, which, keep in mind, an 8 out of 10 is still pretty solid, but I don't think it was an actual 10 out of 10 game. What I think made it feel like a 10 out of 10 game was essentially just that immersion level and kind of the feeling of wonder of just knowing that there is a million things to do in this world, a world that most of us grew up in Harry Potter, whether it's the books or the movies, and that was the thing that took that game to a genuine 10 out of 10 for a lot of people. I do really think that Star Wars Outlaws is going to need to do something pretty similar there, where even if the game itself is only a 7 out of 10 or an 8 out of 10, it just feels super immersive and it feels like we are literally just an actual outlaw in the Star Wars universe. If they can manage to do that, I think that is going to be a really big positive for the game. Whether or not they can pull that off, that's a different story, but we have seen that done in recent years with both of the Jedi games. Hell, even Star Wars Squadrons felt very immersive, and although that game didn't do crazy well in terms of numbers and stuff like that, it was a much more niche game, it did feel very Star Wars. So here's hoping they can manage to pull that off. It's going to be a very, very difficult task, but I will say from the stuff we've seen so far, it does look pretty immersive. It does look like it is very true to the Star Wars world, and I'm interested to see just how immersive it is. Now, the next one is kind of obvious. It kind of goes without saying, but something I think they need to nail essentially is the story, and that's not necessarily the story overall. We kind of know the overall plot of the story already just from the trailers and stuff like that, but I'm mostly talking about the story in terms of the characters and realistically just making us actually care about the characters that are involved in Star Wars Outlaws. There's been a lot of criticisms and complaints about Kay Vess and even just her crew, ND5 and Jalen and even Nix, although who can hate Nix, let's be honest, he's an absolute cutie. But there's definitely been a lot of criticisms there that from what we've seen so far, these characters don't seem overly appealing, and I'll be honest, even though I am very excited for this game, I'm not really that drawn to any of the characters. None of them have really shown anything that makes me go, damn, I'm really keen to learn more about that character. So for me, that's more what I need from the story. I don't need the overall story to be anything crazy because, like I said, we kind of know the overall plot. The general aim of the game that they mentioned from the very beginning of marketing is that we are sort of planning this huge heist that will take place towards the end of the game. And for me, that's a fairly basic story. It's no different really than games like Red Dead Redemption and GTA, where that's kind of the big plot point that, you know, we're gearing up for this big heist and we're going to be getting ready for that the entire game, and then we do it and we sail off into the sunset. I don't think that that is going to be a 10 out of 10 story, but if you can make me really care about the characters and make me feel interested to learn more about them, then I think that can actually go a long way, and it will probably make us feel a lot more invested in the story and just the game overall. Now, before we go any further, if you guys are interested in more Star Wars Outlaws content and you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. There is plenty more content on the way. I've recorded this video beforehand, but as you guys are watching this, I have actually already played Star Wars Outlaws, and there is going to be plenty of content from me in the coming days talking about it in depth and my experience with the game so far, so make sure you don't miss out. Now, sort of in line with what I was talking about before when it comes to the immersion, something that I think they really need to nail, and this is arguably more important than the immersion, is essentially the world building, the level design, and realistically just that feeling of wonder when we're playing a Star Wars game. Similar to what I mentioned about Hogwarts Legacy, walking around Hogwarts and just knowing that you really were in Hogwarts. That is the most realistic version of Hogwarts that we have ever seen, and we had the ability to just walk around it and experience that for ourselves. I think there almost needs to be that same sort of level of world building and level design in order to make us feel really immersed in this game, and they've got the potential to do something even cooler there, because obviously with Hogwarts, that's just one location. We could pretty much go to Hogwarts and then up to Hogsmeade, and then obviously there were the valleys and stuff down to the south of Hogwarts too, but it all takes place in the same location. In Star Wars Outlaws, that's not the case. We've literally got 5 different planets to go to. We can also travel around in certain areas of space. We can get into dogfights in space and stuff like that. So there is kind of a lot more for us to experience in Star Wars Outlaws, in that, you know, it's going to be really immersive walking around on Tatooine and visiting Mos Eisley and stuff like that. But there are multiple different planets we get to go to. Some of them we know already, some of them are completely new. And it kind of just means there is a lot more that they can do there when it comes to that world building and giving us that kind of feeling of wonder of just landing on a planet and going, damn, I just want to go and explore. I don't want to do the story right now. I just want to get on my speeder and go out and find some of the cool little Easter eggs that are no doubt going to be hidden throughout the game. Now, finally, something that I think they need to do, and this is going to be very hard for me to explain, but I think this game just needs that something special. I'm sure you guys know, if you're a Star Wars fan, that there is just something special about Star Wars, and I can't really put a finger on it. I don't know if it's the setting of the game, the fact that it is set in space, something that's obviously completely unrealistic to us, or even whether it's just the fact that there's obviously so much nostalgia there, being as this is a 40-plus-year-old franchise. But there is something special about Star Wars that I think when a project really bangs, it generally tends to have that something special that makes it feel very Star Wars. Now, talking about the Jedi games earlier with Jedi Survivor, those games had the benefit of having us play as a literal Jedi, which is obviously the most iconic, I guess, role within the Star Wars universe. The Jedi are seen as like the big hero sort of characters, and so obviously anytime we get to play as a Jedi, that's going to be very fun. Not only is it fun to swing around a lightsaber, but they also get to use the Force, and there's just a lot of sort of cool elements to being that Jedi type of character. When it comes to playing as Kay Vess, though, she doesn't have any of that. She doesn't have a lightsaber, she can't use the Force. Realistically, she's just a regular human, and it is going to be a lot harder for them to make her feel special and give us that feeling of wonder that I was talking about earlier. Whether it's through the story and making us feel connected to Kay, whether it's even little things like using Nix to sort of help us on our missions, there needs to be something that makes us feel invested in Kay and her story, because I think there is going to need to be something to kind of differentiate her from being just Han Solo from Wish. A lot of people have been saying that that is what this character is kind of looking like. She's just a bargain version of Han Solo, and I'm not sure what it needs to be, but they definitely need to do something to really differentiate her from that, because no matter how good the game is and immersive the worlds are, if we aren't connected to the main character, that is definitely going to tank a lot of people's opinion, which I don't think anyone wants to see. Even the people who are genuinely hating on this game, I think even those people would be happy if the game turns out to be an absolute banger. So even the people who are genuinely just hating on the game for no reason, I don't think even they want to see this game truly fail. Then again, I could be completely mistaken there. Overall, I think if this game can nail all of those elements I just talked about, then it can genuinely be a great Star Wars game, but there is a lot of expectation and it is going to be very difficult for them to do that. So I'm very interested to see how it goes. And like I said, as of the time of this video going live, I will have actually had my hands on the game by then. And so be sure to keep your eyes peeled on the channel so that I can actually talk about my hands-on experience and give you guys a better idea of what my thoughts are on the game over the next week or so. But that is going to do it for this one, guys. Thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and may the force be with you always.